You don't have to come to both. We're actually going to talk today about being busy. So if you don't get to come to both, it's okay. And we're going to learn that it's okay today. We're going to be looking at Luke 10, and we're going to be looking at Mary and Martha. We're continuing with this series of meals with Jesus. And we have chosen to do that now and through this time of year because a lot of us were going into the holiday season and we're having meals with one another. And so we thought we would look at Jesus having meals with multiple people and what we can learn from each of those instances. We know that Jesus is relational, that he enjoys spending time with people, and that he uses meals for a purpose. More than just for the physical, he uses it also for instructional time, to build relationship. And those are things that just in our own lives, right? If you read statistics, families that have meals together, there's all kinds of good that comes out of that. And so Jesus really also, I would say, set that up, right? Like we have time of relationship with one another, and good things come out of that. Today, however, we're going to look at a meal that never actually happens. I'm assuming at some point they eat, but this part, what we're looking at is the prepping for the meal. And so the meal doesn't happen in the story, but because that's what Jesus uses, just the preparation for it, and he uses this moment to speak and to teach us. So if we look at Luke 10:38, we'll read the story here. It's very quick, but there's a lot in it. So it says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. What I'm going to tell you right now is, a lot of times when we look at the story of Mary and Martha, we turn Martha into the villain, we turn Mary into the good guy. And we are not today going to look at a heroes versus villains story. That's not what we're going to do. We are not going to compare these two women and say which one chose the better way. Instead, I want to look at Jesus in the story. Because if we look at people through the eyes of Jesus, that's when we don't just see heroes and villains. Because it's us that categorizes people that way, right? Like, this is the good behavior, that's the bad behavior, it's black and it's white, this is how it goes. But Jesus is like, there's so much more here. It's not as simple as we like to just take it, right? We like to just take this and say, everybody gets busy, we get distracted, we're supposed to be just spending time with devotions and do more devotions. The end, there's your story. Don't spend time being busy with distractions. But there's more here. If we look at Jesus, there's three things that we are going to learn about Jesus. One, he sees who we are. Two, he is not afraid of our feelings. And three, Jesus offers a new way. So if we look at Jesus sees exactly who Martha is. If we look at John 11:5, because we can't just look at, if you don't know, Martha and Mary are the brothers of Lazarus. So we find out a little bit more about them if we look over at John chapter 11, and that's the story where Lazarus dies and Jesus raised him back to life. That's where we read Jesus wept, right? A lot of us know that. And a lot of us don't pay that much attention to Mary and Martha in that story. But in verse 5 of 11, it gives us some information of who Mary and Martha are. It says, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So Jesus is friends with these people, okay? This is not just a random woman doing some kitchen work while the disciples are learning at the feet of Jesus. Instead, this is a woman who is friends with Jesus. We know she owns the home. It says that they have come to her home. We know that this is probably a large home that Jesus and all of the disciples and probably some other people who have traveled with them are all coming here to find rest. So it's probably a large home. Martha and Mary probably have great wealth. Okay, so it's not this poor, dingy place. And she's friends with Jesus, and what is she doing? She wants to prepare a meal for Jesus and the disciples. While she's preparing the meal, Jesus is teaching the men, and then Mary is sitting there. So we know Jesus is friends with her, and he's paying attention to what's happening. Martha does not think that Jesus is paying attention, though, right? She's over here, and she's doing all of the work, and she's prepping all of the stuff. And now, I don't know if you've ever been the person who thinks that you're doing all of the work and nobody else is helping you. That might just be me in my home. But I'm going to imagine that as she is prepping, she's probably like tossing something loudly onto the table, to try to does any of you hear this? Maybe when she goes back into the room, I don't know if there's a door, but she probably lets it slam, She's probably making noise into the kitchen, like louder and louder and louder. I'm imagining if she's bringing something back to the table, there's probably some huffing and some puffing. There's probably some side-eye to her sister Mary, right? Does anybody notice all of the work I'm doing and you're all just lounging over here? And she doesn't think anybody sees her. But what we see here is Jesus does see her. See, Jesus is teaching, but at the same time, he's very aware of what's happening with Martha. He's teaching over here, but I'm sure he's watching, and I don't know if it's just the moms in the room. I know I can do this, but I can be very invested in a conversation with somebody here, but I'm also very aware of what is happening with all the other people around. I know exactly what's going on with this kid and that kid, and I see them. Even though I might be focused on this one, I'm very, very much paying attention over here. And that's what Jesus is doing. And we see that because if we continue to read, Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. Kind of obvious, yeah, no kidding. But he's saying this to her lovingly, and he's saying, I see what's going on. I see that you are busy doing all of these things. I recognize it. And sometimes that's what we need, right? We just need the person to come and be like, I see you. I see what is going on with you. I see your circumstances. I see that this is tough. And a lot of times we think that we are alone in it and nobody knows. Jesus isn't seeing me. He has totally forgotten about me. He's with all of the disciples over here. He's teaching them. These are who he cares about. I'm over here doing all of the work so that they can eat. And nobody's paying attention. But Jesus shows that he is, in fact, paying attention. He does see her. The other thing we see here is that as she's running around, it says that she's anxious and that she's distracted. It says, but Martha was distracted by all of the preparations that had to be made. This word doesn't mean that she's just busy in the moment. This word distracted here is a sense of inner turmoil. So Jesus is seeing her, and he is seeing, I see that you are overwhelmed. I see that you are inside, there's turmoil here. Your brain is going a million miles. Your emotions are probably all over the place. Nobody can relate to this, right?
Right.
But Jesus sees it, and he's here, and he's acknowledging it. But then the other thing we see here is he isn't afraid of Martha's feelings. See, she comes, and what does it say? It says she came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. How many times do we come to Jesus, right? And we're like, do it this way. This is what I want you to do. I want you to tell her to help. If you've ever been around sisters, this is very real. Okay, I have 3 sisters. Tell her to get up and to get in the kitchen and to clean. But what does Jesus do? Jesus instead talks to her. But he does not reprimand her. He does not come to her and say, look at lady, you have just interrupted my teaching. Be quiet and get back in the kitchen. That is not what Jesus says to her. Instead, we read that he says her name 2 times. This is showing love and caring, right? She is anxious, because I don't think she's come out here to Jesus and just quietly walked out like, hey, Jesus, if you get a moment, could you just tell my sister to get up and help me? I think she has come and she has interrupted the teaching, and she is like, Jesus, do you not even see what is going on here? Tell my sister to get up. And I think he's coming to her and he's saying, Martha, Martha. Try to get her, right? When you've seen the person who is like, their emotions are worked up, right? You got to just say their name a couple times to bring it down. Let me talk to you in this moment, because you're off. Let me just bring you back here for a minute. And so he's lovingly talking to her. He is not reprimanding her. He is not telling her, you have this all wrong and how dare you talk to me this way. Instead, he's meeting her in her anxiety. He's meeting her in her turmoil. He's meeting her in her busyness. She has her eyes off of what she's supposed to have it on, which is Jesus. And he's trying to bring it back. She's focused on her sister, and she's focused on work. But Jesus is saying, look at me for a minute. Look here, right? If you're talking to a toddler, and they're like all crazy, right? And you're like, look me in the eyes. And let's have a conversation here. And then we can go about what we need to do. And so Jesus is not afraid of those feelings. He's not saying you shouldn't come to me with your feelings and your frustrations. You shouldn't come to me with your anger. Instead, he's okay with it. And he's meeting her there. And Martha, I'm going to mix them up a lot. Martha does this again in John when her brother has died, when Lazarus dies. Once again, you'll read, if you go over there, she's the one running out to Jesus when she finds out that he's coming. And she's like, here's the problem, my brother is dead. So see, she's not a woman who doesn't know who Jesus is. And I think sometimes that's how we paint her. We paint her in this picture of she doesn't get it, she missed the mark here, and she doesn't even get that Jesus is in her house and she should just be sitting there. Instead, she does know who Jesus is. She's his friend. In John, you'll read where she says, I know that you can raise my brother from the dead. I know you could do it. Even though he's dead, you can raise him. Just do it. So she's a woman who has full understanding of who Jesus is. And Jesus knows that too. And so he's meeting her here, and he's okay with her coming and talking to him as a friend. Here is my problem, and I need you to fix it. Now, he does have to bring her back in line a little bit, because he's not going to answer her the way in which she wants him to answer her. So even though Jesus is okay with our feelings, he's okay with our frustrations, he's okay with our anger, and we are supposed to bring those things to him, that doesn't mean he's always going to do what we ask him to do. Because when we continue on, he answers her in a way in which she's not prepared. She wasn't thinking that was going to be his answer. She comes with like, you're going to do this, make my sister get up and come help. And Jesus is like, actually, that's not the plan for today. But the thing here is that it's okay to bring our feelings and our frustrations to Jesus. He wants us to do that. And that's part of the going through these meals with Jesus, is that he is relational. He wants a relationship with you. He does not want you to just be a robot who just comes and always gives the happy-go-lucky answer. Right? Sometimes we do that in church. And we just pretend like everything is always good. And I'm not a good Christian if I'm not just always giving the Bible school answer and the Sunday school answer. And we think we're supposed to just talk in scriptures all the time. That's not what Jesus is requiring here. He's requiring real relationship. Come with your real frustrations, and I'm going to meet you there, and we're going to have a discussion about it. Again, it's probably going to lead to not where you wanted it to lead, but he wants to have the conversation, and then he wants to bring you to where you're supposed to be. The other thing we see here is he offers a new way. See, when we come to Jesus with our feelings and our frustrations and our uncertainties, he doesn't usually answer the way we want. Because it's us answering and trying to fix the problem in our own sense, right? Like, this is the way we should do it. But we're limited in our thinking. Jesus is thinking so much bigger than that. So Jesus says here, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Jesus is saying there's a different way here. See, so often we put on Martha, what is wrong with this lady? She's just running around, prepping this meal, and she's not doing the right thing at all. But the fact is, she's actually the woman doing the right thing. She's doing what she has been taught her entire life to do. She's doing what the Old Testament has required of her. She's in the kitchen, and she is prepping the meal for the men. She is not supposed to be at the feet of Jesus. The feet of Jesus is reserved for disciples. And according to the Jewish laws, who are the disciples? It is not a woman. Her place is not at Jesus' feet. Her place is, in fact, in the kitchen. I know, people don't want me to say that. But the reality here is she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. And so often we vilify her with that because we're putting our day and age thinking and putting that on her. Like, Martha, just go and sit with Jesus like your sister Mary. But she's saying, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in the kitchen and I'm not listening to what Jesus is teaching. Because the way that she was supposed to get her teaching from Jesus is that a man, a brother, or a husband later will tell her what he learned. Her place is not to be sitting at Jesus' feet. Her place is to be in the kitchen, get the meal, serve the meal, and then tomorrow Lazarus will tell her all she's supposed to have learned from Jesus. But she is not supposed to get it directly from Jesus. She is not supposed to get the teaching right from him. But Jesus is offering her a new way here, and that's what we forget a lot of times. We don't understand what it would actually mean for her to go and sit at the feet of Jesus. not just missing the opportunity. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's valued as a woman by doing the work of the kitchen and prepping the meal. But Jesus is saying, I have a new way, a way that you're not even thinking about. I've been the woman who doesn't think she gets to have a seat at the feet of Jesus. So often, I get up here and you'll think, oh, she's just a woman pastor and she preaches. And I know some people will think, that's weird. Oh, my kids will say, like, friends will be like, your mom's a pastor too? And yeah, I've been told multiple times, you don't get a seat here. You don't get a seat at the table with the man pastors. You're not allowed here. And I'm told that by the church. It's not even the world, it's the church. You don't get a place up here at the pulpit. And I don't talk about this often because I know it makes people think one way or the other. But my point is that I understand what Martha is feeling in this moment. See, she doesn't have a seat at the feet of Jesus. And we already know from other stories we have read that there are times that even the disciples tell a woman who's at the feet of Jesus, she's not supposed to be here. She doesn't get to be here. And so for Martha to put down the stuff in the kitchen and to walk out of the kitchen and to sit at the feet of Jesus at a place of being a disciple as a woman, she has to be so brave. This isn't a simple, just go from this room to that room and have a seat. Take a moment. And I think sometimes that's how we preach this. We preach it like, just put down the kitchen work and go have a seat over here. But she, by following Jesus, is changing and going against her culture. This is a huge moment if she goes and sits here. She can be ridiculed. She can be told, you don't get a seat here. What are you thinking? Get back in that kitchen. But Jesus is saying, I have a place for you, and it's a place of disciple, and I am aware of what you were taught. I'm aware of how it used to be. But in my kingdom, the men and the women get to come and sit at my feet. In my kingdom, there's a calling for both. I know we're talking about gender here, but it's not just that. There are times that we think we don't have a seat, a place at the feet of Jesus because of our past. We think, I'm not smart enough to be the one who's sitting as a place of a disciple. I don't know enough answers. I don't want to come to Bible study because I'm not sure if they call on me, will I be able to answer the question? I don't want to come to Bible study because they might ask me to pray, to read out loud or to pray out loud, and I don't know if I can do that. See, when Jesus calls us, he calls us to something new. He doesn't call us to just keep doing the status quo. He's calling us to come out and take a step of faith. For Martha to go from the kitchen to the feet of Jesus is a huge, bold step of faith. And Jesus invites every one of us to come and sit at his feet and to learn directly from him. He wants direct relationship with you. Not tomorrow you can get the leftovers of what your brother remembers. He's saying, I have a new way. And then when he says, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. I don't think he's comparing the two sisters. I don't think he's saying to her, Martha, you messed up big time here. I can't believe I had to stop teaching to come and to talk to you about this when you can see what your sister's doing. That is not what he's saying here. I think he's saying you're not even alone in the calling in which I'm calling you to. I think he's saying, look at your sister. There's already somebody sitting here at my feet who really doesn't belong either, but look, it's okay. I think that's what the church is supposed to be, when we're supposed to be able to say to one another, look I didn't think I had a place either, but I do have a place, and you can come sit with me. And it's okay, because Jesus does things a little bit different here. He's calling her out of the busyness. He's calling her away from the anxiety. He's calling her away from the rules and the regulations that man has put upon you. There's so many times that we allow other people to put things on us that keep us from Jesus. We're so worried about what somebody else is going to think that instead we don't sit at his feet and we don't learn from him because we're so concerned about the people around us, and we're so concerned about our to-do list. And we're so concerned about these are the right ways. These are the things we're supposed to be doing. And Jesus is saying, I have a whole new way. Jesus isn't saying, just come sit at my feet for no purpose. He's calling her for relationship. And he's using it as example for all the other people to see. Because Jesus doesn't just waste that. He wants everybody else to see, no, there's a place here for her, and there's a place for you too. And so today, if you are struggling with the things of the world, and you're thinking, nobody sees me. Nobody sees all the things that I am doing. Nobody else gets it. I'm drowning here in this. Because we see here that she is saying, these words here are that it's an inner turmoil. And that's what so many times people don't see, right? Sometimes people see us running around and doing all of these things, and they're like, wow, she's really got it all together. And what they're missing is the inner turmoil that is coming along with that. The stress and the anxiety. And so many times we're just not telling each other what's going on. But we can see here through this story that Jesus sees you. Jesus sees exactly what you're going through, even if you don't think he's paying attention. We also see that we are allowed to come to him with our problems. We are allowed to present him with our frustrations. And he doesn't ask us to come perfectly. Sometimes we're going to come and it's just going to be just a mess. Here's the mess, Jesus. Here it is. He says, it's all right. Because I'm going to clean it up with you. I'm going to walk with you through this. And I'm going to show you where I want you to be. And then Jesus says, and here is a new way of doing things. You don't just have to do what you think is expected of you. You don't have to do it the way you've always tried it. I'm calling you to something new. Jesus calls us to abundant life that is more than we can ask, think, or imagine. He's asking us for more. He's asking us to be brave enough to walk with him in that and to take a step of faith in the very thing in which he's calling us. See, Martha was more comfortable in the kitchen. This is what she has spent her entire life being taught to do. And I'm going to guess she did it very, very well, because just knowing people, if she is this woman who is doing all of the work, she's brought people into her home, that's going to tell me she probably has the gift of hospitality, so that is a fruit of the Spirit. She's wealthy, so she's not somebody who's just like, a slouch. She's doing all the things, and she's comfortable in the kitchen. She knows what she's supposed to do, when she's supposed to do it. I'm sure she's got exactly what goes on the fire and when it goes off, and then move that around and all that. But Jesus is calling her to something more. And then Jesus says, there's a place for you at my feet. And he says that to every one of us. It doesn't matter why you think you don't get to sit at the feet of Jesus and learn from him. Jesus is saying, see, when you're anxious and you're troubled, the answer is not for you to tell this person to just get up. The answer is for you to take your eyes off of the other people and put your eyes on me and learn from me and sit in a new place with a new perspective and a new calling. And not to come instead with all these reasons why you don't deserve to be here. Who you are, how smart you are, how much you know, what your past is. None of that keeps you from having a seat, an invitation by Jesus to come and sit at his feet. That's where he wants you to be. And it's there that you will grow, and it's there that you will learn to be more like him. Because his kingdom is calling us to something new and to something different. And it's okay to walk that out with him. So as you go this week, that is what I'm going to say. I think even when Nate was talking here, is that I think Jesus is talking to us and saying, there is a place for you. And it might be something simple. It might be coming to Bible study. It might be talking to somebody new at church. It might just be, I don't even know. Something very simple that he's calling you to, and that you understand you get to be at his feet as a disciple, a part of the group. And if you have real issues in which you are going through this week, those need to be brought to Jesus, not held, not thinking, I have to just keep doing all of the works in order to be allowed into his presence. Instead, you get to bring your problems and your frustrations right to Jesus, and he will meet you there in a loving manner. Not in a scolding, I can't believe you messed up again. You still haven't figured it out. That's not who Jesus is. When we are going through it, we can see that Jesus sees who we are. He isn't afraid of your feelings, and he invites you to a new way of living. Amen? Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. God, we thank you that you do see exactly what we are going through. You know what every one of us is dealing with. You see the unspoken things. You see the hidden things. You see the things that we don't tell anybody else about. God, we thank you that you love us so much, that we are not forgotten by you. You are not too busy to notice us. And God, we thank you that you want to be a part of our struggles, and you want to be in relationship with us, and you want for us to come and bring you our real, true feelings and frustrations. God, I pray over every person here this morning, God, that you would do a new thing in their lives. God, that you would give them the courage and the strength to bring them into the abundant life in which you have called them. God, that they wouldn't be bound by the things that they think hold them back, but they would be willing to cast those things aside and to pursue you. God, we thank you and we praise you in your holy, holy name. Amen.